Come on, bitch. Get over here. All right. Got myself a nice chair. I'm probably gonna get my butthole chewed up by some angry spider whose house I just fucked up. There's people out there, they probably think I'm getting murdered. Come on, bitch. Get over here. Okay. Whoa. Big ass thing just flew by me. Come on. Come on. Get out of here. Here we go. Q&A questions. So, who's your biggest role model both in the fitness sphere and out? My biggest role model in the fitness sphere, you guys probably expect me to say like some big ass name like, you know, David, or I mean obviously David's like a huge inspiration, or Jeff, or like I don't know, some big name. But I've said this once and I'll say it again. The people that inspire me are people like Lex, people like Anthony, and people like Oliver, especially Oliver, because Oliver is he's much more organized and efficient with his work than I am, and that's something I want to get better at. So I see him, you know, posting really high quality content every single day and posting YouTube videos and stuff, and I want to be that way. So yeah, he inspires me a lot. I have a feeling I'm about to get absolutely fucked up by mosquitoes. What's your max bench? The most I've ever cheater benched, which was with the deadlift bar, like hitting it off my chest, was 390. And the most I've ever paused benched, whoa, heard that thing? The most I've ever paused bench, I think, was either 365 or 375. I could be wrong. Definitely 365. Oh boy, I'm about to get so fucking eaten alive by mosquitoes. I might have to move the location of this Q&A. What's the heaviest weight, but like body weight I ever got to? The heaviest body weight I ever got to was, I think, around 187. And I'm 5'9". Dude. Oh yeah, fuck that. We are out of here. These things are as big as fucking birds, man. What's your favorite body part to train? Chest. Come on. What's your split? I'm sorry about this bird. I hope that it's not like annoying in the video. What is your split? My split right now is it's my own version of legs push pull rest, but I'm doing basically squats and deads, and I'm not going to get too specific with it because I could drone on about this for a while, but in short, squats and deads, bench, back accessories, squats, bench, deadlifts, and back accessories, rest. So I'm squatting twice a week, deadlifting twice a week. One of those days is a combined day where I squat and deadlift. Ethnicity, American. Just kidding. I am Australian. I don't know if that's an ethnicity. That's basically just like English person who was a convict back in like the 1600s. And Italian. Yeah, I'm about 50-50. What competitions, I assume you mean what, like when will I be competing in a powerlifting / bodybuilding show? I don't have one planned right now. I want to, regardless of whether I go into powerlifting or bodybuilding, I want to have more muscle on my body basically. Right now, like once you strip away the fat, I don't really know how much quality lean muscle I would have on my body. And you might say, oh James, come on, like how can, you know, people are gonna make jokes about that, I know for a fact, but trust me, I've stood next to Chris Bumstead, and like that's when you see the difference between someone who takes the gym seriously and someone who like dedicates themselves to their craft, whatever. So yeah, like it's not even comparable. I'm an advanced intermediate, and advanced is like a whole new level. And yeah, so I'm gonna wait on that. And that's why I'm doing this bulking series, because I want to properly put on a lot of actual muscle. What type of music do you like the most? Surprisingly, I listen to like literally everything. The only genre I don't really like is country. And even then, there's some that really, what's it called? Knee Deep by Zach Brown Band. There's probably gonna be a bunch of like actual real country fans that are like, that's not real country, but I consider it country and I really like that song. It makes me happy to listen to. Besides that, I really like 60s to like 90s rock. I mean, I just like rock in general. Not a huge fan of like heavy metal. I only listen to that during PR attempts. And not a big fan of death metal, but like literally everything else. I don't really listen to classical that much either. So I guess, yeah, those are like a few genres that I don't really listen to. But just like in terms of artists, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, probably my favorite album of all time. Extremely psychedelic. The lyrics are extremely profound. The themes in the album are extremely profound. And on top of that, the most important thing is the album itself, like the way the music actually sounds, just provokes feelings of grandiose awe and beauty in life. And fuck, Jesus. So I really like that. I really hope people aren't about to crash this party. I think they are. Yeah, they are. I see a dog coming around the corner, but you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to keep vlogging as if they're not even there. So I would recommend that you sit down and listen to the lyrics of that album and just immerse yourself in it. Best starter camera. The RX100, the Sony RX100 is a great camera, but it's extremely overpriced. This camera is $1,200 for a compact camera, which is just, that's tough. The Sony, I think it's called the ZV-1, just came out. It's got like the flip to the side screen. Sony said it's specifically for vlogging. So they're trying to market to people that are vlogging. So obviously it's a good vlogging camera. I would recommend the ZV-1. I think it's only like $700. You can probably get it used. Oh, it's a new camera, so I don't know if you'll be able to get it used yet, but if you could get it for like $400 or $500, I'd definitely go for that. Is Back Guy natural? Dude uses a lot of barrel distortion. I've actually seen him in person. He only weighs about 90 pounds. He has muscle wasting going on in his arms, and I'm actually prescribing him steroid treatment to heal him. What's your underlying motivation? What really makes you get back up? I assume you mean like get up in the morning. All love. All love to you too, Seb. My motivation in life is... I'm gonna have to think about that one. Jump cut right here. I live my life as if there is no afterlife, right? I live my life as if this is my one shot on this planet to be alive. And I don't want one of the things, I think it would be tragic if one of the main things limiting my ability to make the most out of my life was money. And that's kind of always this background driver when I'm doing anything, is like, I know that if I just give up and don't try, a year from now I could be homeless. That's what encourages me to like do business stuff, you know? I have certain skills and I have certain ideas, and I know that I can monetize those skills and ideas, and like it's mutually beneficial. So, you know, the person gets to watch content for free and I get ad revenue, for example. The other motivation I have, which is kind of almost a deeper motivation, is that it's really hard to explain. I know that I'm kind of at a loss for words, but I just want to, like, I have a certain vision of things that I can do, a certain vision of what I can be, and I want to act in a way that will get me closer to where I want to be. And that's not a financial thing at all. I don't really want like mega yachts or like supercars or anything like that. I just don't want to be average or normal. And I also want to be myself. And I think that the best way I can monetize being myself, the best way that I can make a living off of just doing me, is through YouTube and content creation. And you know, I've said this to a lot of people that ask me about like, oh, how do I be authentic? It's like, there's 7.5 billion people on the planet. And if you try to be somebody else, there's already that other person that's gonna be themselves way better than you're gonna imitate them. So there's people that try to imitate David Lade. David Lade's better at being David Lade than you will ever be. So if people wanna watch David Lade, they're not gonna watch you. If you're just imitating him, they're just going to go watch David Lade. So you might as well be yourself, because nobody can be you as good as you can be yourself. Nobody can imitate you as well as you can just be yourself. And naturally, if there's 7.5 billion people on the planet, there's going to be, even if it's only 0.01% of people that really resonate with the things you say, that is still millions of people that are potential fans of you, like hardcore fans. Wow, I resonate with this guy so much, guy or girl. So that's why I really try to speak from the heart, because on every level of analysis, it is simply fundamentally the best course of action. So that kind of went, you asked me what my motivation is, it's complex. That's what I have to say. Do you have stretch marks? I actually kind of do. I don't know if you can see them, but right here is a stretch mark. I don't know if you can see that. And then in here, I have some stretch marks. But I don't have any like red, large stretch marks. Taking in any PEDs at the moment. This is the coup de grace. This is the finisher move, the question that everyone, I assume, wants to know the answer to. And I really hope that if people make videos about this, like, you know, or people mention, oh, James admitted blah, blah, blah in this video, I hope people actually watch the rest of the Q&A, because that answer that I just gave about motivation, that's like pretty fucking important to me. It's more important than what PEDs I'm using, and the real fans know that that is true, but I know that there's going to be a lot of people that just skip to this part of the video. Disclaimer, 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 I am not a doctor. I, James English, am not a doctor. This is not medical advice, and you should assume everything I'm about to say is just satirical. Do not take this as advice, because it's not. Okay, now that we got that out of the way. So with that being said, am I taking any PEDs at the moment? I am currently on 200 milligrams per week of testosterone. So that probably shocks a lot of you. I don't know. There's a lot of people that like message me for cycle advice. I can't just do that because, like, I'm not a doctor. There's plenty of people that just assume that I'm not natural, but I think there are plenty that assume I am natural, and then there's other people that assume I'm on freaking Tren, EQ, test, like a Gamma test, you know, like freaking every oral steroid out there. I'm not. I'm on 200 milligrams of testosterone, which I know that, or I think some people will probably come out and say, like the cycle experts will come out and say, oh, why are you only taking 200 milligrams of test? That's not a cycle. That's a high dose of TRT, if anything. And I understand your concern, and thank you for it, and you don't have to tell me about it. I am not doing a cycle of test. I'm actually taking this year round, and the reason it is such a low dose, I mean, 200 is not like, it's nothing, but in terms of a cycle, people usually take 300, 400, 500, whatever, for their first cycle. So the reason that I'm only taking 200 is because I'm trying to keep my test levels at the high end of normal, or maybe even above the high end of normal based on what my blood work comes back as, year round, without having to take an aromatase inhibitor, without having to, you know, basically sacrifice my health in a large way. Obviously, there's going to be health consequences, like on your blood lipids, on blood pressure. There's going to be health consequences regardless. And I basically just decided that, like, doing it year round at a low dose is going to be better for my health than blasting a bunch of shit and then, like, doing a post-cycle therapy thing where my endocrine system is like begging for help, trying to come back, and then as soon as it's somewhat repaired, I blast again, and it just destroys the endocrine system again. Like, that's just, no. I'd rather just do a low dose year round that kind of puts me at the most advantageous, I don't want to say healthy, but the most advantageous, not extremely unhealthy level of test, and I don't need to take an AI. And the reason I'm taking this at all is because I want to compete, and it is simply not feasible to compete naturally. And I don't want to compete in a drug-tested bodybuilding federation because that's just my personal preference. I just don't want to. It doesn't have the same allure to me. And I just want to add on to that and say that Gymshark played zero role in my choice to take shit. There's people out there that, I don't know if it's a meme, I don't know if it's like a joke, or if people are fucking serious, but there's this theory that is written in the Gymshark contract that, like, you have to be on shit, or that, like, you can't talk about what you take. Like, that's just fucking stupid, honestly. And the reason that people in Gymshark and Alpha Elite and VQ and any other company that are sponsored don't want to say what they're on is because they don't want their girlfriend to know, they don't want their parents to know, they don't want their family to know, they don't want their wife to know, they don't want their friends to know, or they don't want sponsors to drop them, or they don't want the stigma, blah, 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 blah. There's a million fucking reasons. So when people don't want to admit that they take shit, it's because they don't want other people to know. It's not because Gymshark is telling them that they can't. And like a lot of the time, it's because they don't want what they have attained to be discredited in some way. And another thing, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've never taken anything on Natty in the past. Oh, and this is my first ever thing that I'm taking. Because I see that said too. People will come out and say like, hey guys, my first ever cycle, my first ever time taking anything. And they've been juicing since Capri Sun, as Dom would say, and it's so fucking obvious. And it's like, do you think we're stupid? But then there's people that fucking believe it. So, yeah. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to, at least in this Q&A, get into what I've taken in the past. I've never taken steroids in the past, just to be clear, but I'm not going to act like I've been this like Messiah, Holy Spirit, clean, I've never touched anything up until this point when I just decided to get on test, because that's not true. And I'm going to tell you something else. It's not true for a lot of other people in the industry. Obviously, I'm not going to name any names, but I will say that Lex Little is natural. And that's something that really annoys me, more than I get annoyed by accusations against me. Because when people accuse me of taking shit, I'm just like, well, yeah, I mean, they're right. But when people like accuse my best friend and I just know that he's natural and he's going to compete naturally, he's going to be drug tested, and if he goes to Worlds, he's going to be drug tested randomly out of meat, and people are still going to be saying that he is unnatural, and it's just wrong. But anyway, I'll probably make a video on the stuff I've used in the past, or maybe include it in another Q&A or do a live about it. And there's going to be a lot of people that don't believe me because they think that I have been juiced to the gills on Trenbolone since I was fucking 18 years old. And like, sorry, but no, that's not the case. And I'm just going to straight up be straight up about everything that I use from now on and what I've used in the past. So the reason that I want to do that, the reason I want to be straight up about everything is just because, I don't know. I really don't know. I just want to be, you know? There's plenty of reasons that I could just not talk about it. And I could be morally clean, so to speak. Like, oh, you don't have to say that you're on steroids. Just don't talk about it. And then you're not claiming natural, which means you're not lying. And that's fair enough. I'm not saying anyone has to come out and talk about this stuff, but something was just like, you know what, James? Answer the questions about what you take. Don't just skip over them, and answer them truthfully. And I've been wanting to kind of talk about this for a while. That is what I'm doing. Anyway, if you're still with me and you haven't exited out of the page yet, I'm no longer talking about my testosterone, so we're moving on to new questions. Hopefully you're still engaged. How often do you do abs? Honestly, never, but I'm going to start doing them like probably twice a week because I want to build a better core. What inspired you to start training? I was a gymnast for almost 10 years and excuse me. I was a gymnast for almost 10 years and then I quit gymnastics because I was getting injured a lot. My parents were like, too many trips to the doctor, you're done. And I said, okay, fine. And then I didn't have that, physical activity every day because previously I was doing gymnastics 4 hours a day, every day of the week. And I was like, you know what, I'll start going to Planet Fitness with my mom. Soon realized that Planet Fitness was extremely whack and started religiously reading bodybuilding.com forums. Then I kind of realized that bodybuilding.com was ridiculously whack and started religiously reading just about everything related to fitness, and I really just became involved in it. I don't exactly know what drove me in the first place. Will you still collab with Oliver? We were planning on moving to LA July and August, so I would be in LA right now if it weren't for the virus. Then we moved it to August and September. Then we moved it again to September and October. So right now, that's where our Airbnb reservation is, September and October. I think the Airbnb owners are getting pretty pissed with us. If they're watching, I apologize, but that is the plan right now, September and October, and it's LA, so it's still gonna be warm weather, and if anything, it's gonna be less super crazy with people. It's still gonna be crazy because it's LA, but there's not gonna be, like, you know, people visiting for the summer. When is your birthday? August 27th, 1999, so I'm gonna be 21 in about a month. Best exercises for shoulder growth. Standing overhead press. And the reason I don't recommend seated is because seated, you maintain the same torso position. So it's more front delt and even some upper chest. But with standing overhead press, you clear your head and then you get under the bar like this so that you're basically perpendicular with the bar and you press directly overhead, and you really have to externally rotate at the shoulder, and it's just an amazing shoulder exercise. So I much more highly recommend standing overhead press over seated overhead press. What supplements do you use? Besides that vitamin T, I use just Gorilla Mind stuff, actually, because Gorilla Mind... Can this fucking bird shut up? The Gorilla Mind stuff has creatine in it, so Gorilla Mode Nitric has 2.5 grams of creatine per scoop. I normally take whey protein, but I just haven't picked any up in a while. So yeah, I should probably do that because I'm bulking. Would be nice to get in some extra calories in general. And yeah, dieting as a teenager who goes to school, meal prep, etc. I used to bring a bag of Thomas's bagels to school and Biscoff cookie butter. And this was back when my metabolism was on some funky shit. So it would just like blast furnace through stuff that I put in it. So I literally would go, people knew me for like doing this. Like this was a known thing. Oh, there's James with his fucking bagels and Biscoff butter. Biscoff butter is like cookie butter essentially. It's unbelievable. So I used to go to the bathroom with my bagels and my Biscoff, and the teachers just kind of let me go because they knew that I was into lifting. And I would slap some Biscoff on the bagel and just eat it with water. And I would do the old David Lade tactic of like chewing a little bit of food, water, swallow it like a pill, chewing the food, swallow it like a pill. I wish I had that motivation to eat. Nowadays, it's like, I cannot slam food like that. Why don't you use a mass gainer for your bulk? I mean, the pre-packaged mass gainer just makes me feel like fucking dookie. It is really just like maltodextrin, which is very high in the glycemic index, and just like shitty ingredients, just artificial sweeteners, which are known for upsetting the stomach, and then the maltodextrin, and then like crude, you know, kind of like not high quality protein. It is just a recipe for bloating and horrible farts and horrible shits and horrible stomach pain. And in my opinion, you might even eat less if you take mass gainer. You might actually eat less food. If you're feeling like shit all the time because you're drinking mass gainer with meals, guess what? You're feeling nauseous, you're feeling bloated, you feel like you have to shit and throw up at the same time. You're not going to want to go slam another meal, which is actually going to be high quality food. So I personally would probably only buy like Gorilla Mode. I don't know if I can say this, I'm going to run this by Derek, but Gorilla Mind has EAAs, essential amino acids, coming out in the next week, and those digest extremely easily. They, instead of stirring into like a smoothie kind of consistency, they stir into like a Gatorade kind of consistency. So I'm just going to be slamming EAAs, and if I need to get some Isopure whey protein for like a bulk protein, I'll go get that. But Isopure is basically the only stuff I'll use because it is extremely well filtered and it doesn't upset my stomach. Tips on powerlifting bench press form. If I can figure out how to attach a video right here, like here or here, I'll do it. Because I have a video called Bench Press Tips on my channel, which is about that. What's your opinion on creatine monohydrate versus HCl? I used to be one of those people that was like, oh, minimalist, creatine monohydrate, that's all you need. And that is true, that is all you need, but the rate of gastric distress, which basically means stomach fuckery, with creatine monohydrate versus HCl is like night and day. So there's a lot of people that can tolerate HCl in high doses and be fine, but they take like, 2 grams of monohydrate and their stomach is fucked. For most people, they can handle monohydrate just fine. Why not a clean bulk, especially if you're trying to compete? Because my biggest issue is getting in enough calories. I just don't get hungry a lot, so I just, first and foremost, need to be in a caloric surplus, and sometimes that involves, you know, eating a box of mac and cheese with like a pound of beef in it. It's like I just simply need the calories to be in my stomach. If I could eat sweet green all the time, you know, and like just fruit and like lean, you know, chicken and rice and gain weight, I'd do that because it's healthier. When you first started lifting, did you ever think you'd be where you are now? Love the content. No, absolutely not. And for a while, that was not even like a thought in my mind. It wasn't even a hope. It was just like, oh, I just really enjoy lifting. That's a little tick. Uh-oh. I didn't think that whatsoever. I just lifted because I wanted to. Even when I saw David Lade for the first time, that was in 2017, I still didn't really think that I would make anything out of fitness, really. Then I saw Dave for the second time in 2019, and I got a few more thousand followers, and I really started to like just get back into training because I think I started to have somewhat of a spiritual awakening, as cliche as that sounds. And I was just like, what am I doing in computer science? The only thing was that I was getting good grades in computer science. So I was like, okay, well, this isn't my passion, but you know, the money's good and blah, blah, blah. And something clicked and I was like, James, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? So I stayed in computer science, but I really started to like ramp up the content. It was almost like my subconscious was pleading that I would get followers and kind of get an opening, and thank God I did. And then, you know, I moved to New York last summer, gained more and more followers. Gymshark started looking at me. Then I went back into school for junior year, and I was like, it was all alien, and I was like, this is not my fucking passion. And then, so I said, you know what, I won't do computer science anymore, but I gotta get a degree, so I'll major in business. And then I started taking these stupid fucking business classes. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry, dude. A lot of the shit you take in college is useless. It's useless. You don't need college. The only reason you need college is because of accreditation, which is the stupidest thing ever. Because employers are just gonna be like, oh, well, you went to this college, so that's gonna give you a leg up on the other guy. It's like, I don't like that employers are that way. I can see why they are, you know, it makes sense because accreditation, it's a very simple way to prove that you know your shit to some degree, right? Versus some guy that has no degree, he's got to prove himself way harder. But it just is unfortunate that that's the way it is. And I was like, you know what? There is no degree that is going to help me become an influencer. There's no degree that's going to help me gain followers and, you know, gain all this. If anything, psychology would probably be a better degree for that, learning how people work rather than fucking business. And even then, it's like, dude, most of the important shit I've learned in my life, the stuff that's actually helped me as a person, helped me make money, I have learned through experience. And I'm going to tell you a million fucking times, experience is 10 billion times more valuable than learning something. Because when you learn something through experience, I shouldn't say it's more important than learning something, it's more important than being told something, right? Because when you learn through experience, you never forget that. You never forget it. If you get burned, if you get, you know, if you trust someone and they betray you, you never forget that. And it burns itself into your brain and you just know it from now on. And it helps you not only gain knowledge, but also gain wisdom and just know how to orient yourself properly. If you're just told something in school, right? Obviously you can study, obviously education is very important, and there are certain things where I think you should need to go to school. But there are other things where it's like, the people that tell you that you need a degree for the sake of having a degree, do not listen to those people, okay? I am evidence that that's not true. David Lade is evidence that that's not true. Lex is evidence that that's not true. Bill Gates is evidence that that's not true. I don't want to get into, you know, oh, well, those are the 1 in a million. I'm not a 1 in a million type of person, I'm going to be honest. And I can still make it happen. So if I can make it happen, you can make it happen. And you need to do some serious soul searching and see if you're in college or you're about to be in college, you have to say, do I love this enough to spend $50,000 a year on it and be in debt for maybe the next couple decades of my life? No, probably not. With most people, probably not. And, you know, I think we are seeing the beginning of the end with institutions of education as we know them. That looks like it is basically it for the questions. And I'm probably going to put the last question I answered, I'm going to put the second to last question I answered as the last question because it was more profound and I want to leave the video on a more profound note. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next one. Look at this. Look at this. That is beautiful. Take some time out of your day to go appreciate nature. It will make you a more happy person.